Today, I am going to reveal the truth about Alex Mason, or maybe more conveniently, the lies about Alex Mason, because as we know, with Call of Duty Black Ops 6 around the corner, the truth does indeed lie. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about a month ago, we got this statement directly from Activision.
And it's also directly tied to Black Ops 2 that are set in the 80s, and that obviously includes Hudson and Mason dying. Yes, they are dead. I am sorry.
If you don't know what is going on here, as they mentioned, Black Ops 6, the newest Call of Duty game coming out this year, takes place right after, in fact, 2 years after the events of Black Ops 2. And when we refer to this, what we are talking about is the Panama City invasion. Now, this is when Alex Mason and Frank Woods go into Panama City, and we're going to take a deeper dive into this later in the video, but just hold on with me for a second. But they go into Panama City, and what ends up happening is you play as Frank Woods, and you end up being told over your comms by Jason Hudson to take a shot at a hooded figure, being told that this figure is none other than Raul Menendez, and to take the shot and take him out. Now, there are two different endings to this game. Number one, you shoot him in the knee, and Alex Mason survives, not to be seen until the year 2025. In another ending, you shoot him in the head, and quite literally here, he is dead. And basically in that statement from Activision, they are telling us that the canon ending is that indeed Alex Mason is shot and killed, and later on, as we see in a similar cutscene, Jason Hudson is then further killed by Raul Menendez as well as Frank Woods being shot in the knees. Now, what if I told you all of this is a lie? Now, I want to be clear, just number one right away, I cannot confirm any of this, nor will I be able to confirm any of this until the game actually launches and we see what happens in game. But I have a very strong feeling that Activision is indeed lying to us here. The reason why I say this is let's go to one of the blog posts for Black Ops 6, just one of them. This is the most recent one, the road to launch. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, at the very bottom of every single blog post for Black Ops 6, they have the Truth Lies logo. It's on every single one of them, almost telling us that they are indeed lying to us, because the truth that they are giving us lies. And let me give you more proof that they are lying to us specifically about Alex Mason. Listen very, very closely to what she says right after saying Alex Mason is dead.
But I did see a lot of people confused about that. They're dead. So unfortunately they died, but having worked so closely with Woods.
Do you notice how she never says we are confirming that they're dead? She is just setting up the world to say that indeed they are dead. But when it comes to saying we are confirming that they are dead, she stumbles over her words and does not say that.
They're dead.
Because I don't think they're confirming that Alex Mason's dead. I think they are confirming that we are supposed to think that they are dead. But again, speculation, we don't know until the game actually comes out. So let's actually move into some things that are confirmed with Alex Mason. And some of this is actually really going to blow your mind. Now, this is something that has always been in Black Ops, and it takes us all the way back to Black Ops 1, and it tells us that we have always been lied to in regards to Alex Mason. And if you saw my interview with the original voice actor for Frank Woods, James C. Burns, you might have noticed that I mentioned this, and this is the video that I was talking about that I was making on this. Now, if we go back all the way to Black Ops 1, if you know the story of Alex Mason, basically he gets captured and brought into a prison, specifically called Vorkuta prison, which by the way is coming back in Black Ops 6. Now, while in this prison, he is taken in and essentially brainwashed. MK Ultra is used on him by the Russians, by Lev Kravchenko, Dragovich, and Frederick Steiner being the scientist. He is brainwashed to become a sleeper agent for Russia and for the bad guys. Now, him being a sleeper agent only actually works if he is not in Vorkuta prison, because how can he be a sleeper agent? How can he betray America? How can he listen to the numbers broadcast stations if he is stuck in Vorkuta prison? Which means him breaking out of prison had to have been a part of Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner's plan, which means the entire breakout scene is not a come to Jesus moment for Alex Mason and Viktor Reznov escaping from Vorkuta prison. This is actually what was planned by Dragovich, Steiner, and Kravchenko the entire time, because he would need to have thought that he escaped on his own volition and went back to America and then became a sleeper agent inside the American government, which, by the way, in the very next cutscene, that is exactly what we see. He goes to the Pentagon and has some trippy cutscenes of him potentially killing JFK. And by the way, by the very end of Black Ops 1, it is heavily implied that Mason was indeed the trigger man on the JFK assassination. I have a completely separate video for that. If you want to check it out, it'll be linked down in the description. Now, this also means something else very, very big, because as we know, who was the person that helped him escape Vorkuta prison? That is, of course, Viktor Reznov, and we always assumed that Viktor Reznov was the good guy. On the several missions when Viktor Reznov pops up, be it in Alex Mason's head or not, we assumed that Viktor Reznov was there to help us out. He did some sort of counter brainwashing inside of Vorkuta prison to help Alex Mason become a good guy, to break the brainwashing of Dragovich and Kravchenko. But here's the thing. There are actually two options here. Option number one is that inside the prison, Viktor Reznov really was there. He really did run some counter brainwashing on Alex Mason and then helped him escape to then stop Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. Or option number two, Viktor Reznov was never in Vorkuta prison. He was implanted inside of Alex Mason's head from the very beginning, and Viktor Reznov was actually the way that Dragovich, Steiner, and Kravchenko used to brainwash Mason the entire time. Now, this is just a theory and it cannot be proven at this point. I'm curious to see if either of these characters, Alex Mason or Viktor Reznov, return in Black Ops 6 whatsoever. But this also brings us to a much bigger theory in regards to this, and it comes back to something that James C. Burns said to me when I interviewed him. Here's what he said.
Here's one that people don't pick up on. Most of the time when you see Reznov, he's dressed like Woods.
So obviously what he's implying here, and by the way, I don't think this is true, but it's an interesting theory, is that also on top of Viktor Reznov being inside of Alex Mason's head the entire time, it was also Frank Woods that was in his head the entire time as well. Now, I don't think this is necessarily true, but it's an interesting kind of plot hole to write into the story to make you question whether or not what anything Alex Mason is kind of dreaming up or thinking of is real whatsoever. Now, the only other thing that I will say about this, and maybe you guys can come up with a theory down in the comments, but I find this interesting. To my knowledge, the only time that you are actually able to play as Frank Woods is indeed that mission in Panama. When you go to pull the trigger on Alex Mason, this is the only mission you play as Frank Woods. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident in that one. And this kind of plays into the idea that maybe it wasn't actually Frank Woods that pulled that trigger. Now, this doesn't work with the Black Ops 6 story that they're giving us, but this is like just a theory back in the day. Maybe it was Alex Mason who actually pulled that trigger on his friend Frank Woods, and he disassociates with his entire personality because of this. And there's actually evidence of this in Black Ops 4 of all places. There's a final cutscene in that game that shows this.
Stinks. Angola. Sorry, kid. No. It's you in the box. It's always been you. Vorkuta. Don't black out, man. I'm on it.
And essentially what this was implying is that in the beginning of Black Ops 2, when Alex Mason goes to save Frank Woods from that shipping container, it wasn't actually Frank Woods in that shipping container, it was Alex Mason. And therefore the person to pull the trigger at the very end of the game on what we thought was Alex Mason was not. Those roles were completely reversed, and Alex Mason's way of dealing with it was completely disassociating and thinking that indeed he was Frank Woods. I know, very confusing, And really, that's just a theory.
A game theory.
Now, there's a whole other theory in regards to Viktor Reznov and the idea that he was never really real. Even going back all the way to Call of Duty World at War with Dmitry Petrenko meeting Viktor Reznov, there is a theory that Viktor Reznov never really was there. And I've never covered this on the channel, but it's an interesting one. And maybe if you want to see that video, hit that like button. But the reason why I made this one is because not just with what we heard about Alex Mason in Black Ops 6, with him supposedly being dead, which by the way is not confirmed whatsoever. And until I see something in game that 100% states that, or they literally say 100% confirmed, we are not changing it, he is dead, I will not believe that. But the reason why I made this video is because it is not just this idea of Alex Mason being dead or not that has plot holes with it. There is also many plot holes throughout the Black Ops games with Alex Mason. But I think that's actually one of the reasons why he's a good character. There's a bunch of mystery, questions, and unanswered situations that we have with Alex Mason, not knowing whether he is still brainwashed by Russia and the bad guys, or whether he's a good guy and working with Frank Woods, or whether or not Viktor Reznov is in his head or real and still alive as John Trent, which, again, whole other story altogether. But I just want you to keep this all in mind as we go into Black Ops 6, because no other character follows the motto, "The truth lies," more than Alex Mason.
We are